Spider-Man, Spider-Man, I'm here to talk about Spider-Man. Thought I was done, well you were wrong. They made another show, so now I sing this song. Look out, here's some more Spider-Man. Yeah, how about that? Disney went and made a new Spider-Man series. It's almost as if they recently released a movie they can capitalize on. Cynicism aside, and before we begin, I'm sure you've noticed a dip in video quality and lighting and so on and so forth. Well, the thing is my camera broke and I'm currently waiting for a replacement, so that's why you had this weird angle. I'm using a webcam right now and that's why the mic is in shot and not much I can do about it for a couple videos. I'm gonna be doing vlogs till then, but just wait around, more actual episodes are on the way. Now, as I stated in my opening musical number, for which I am accepting Academy Award nominations, hint hint, I have made a lot of Spider-Man videos recently. I talked about the sequel to the PS1 game, I've talked about Ultimate Spider-Man, and I've talked about the recent movie. But it's time to talk about this new show, for which we have just gotten a 2-episode pilot. Once again, seeing teenage nerd Peter Parker attempting to start his life as a superhero and keep his life as a teenager running at the same time. First and foremost, let's address the show that this is replacing, Ultimate Spider-Man. I did not watch much of that, to be perfectly honest with you. I watched about half a season and gave up. It's not that I strongly dislike the show, I just felt it tried entirely too hard on the humor part, and that the team dynamic did not work at all, especially when half of every episode is just every character that isn't Spider-Man calling Spider-Man an idiot. I'm sure it has a lot to offer if I actually sit down and watch all, 3-4 seasons, but I didn't watch it much, so I don't really have any vitriol towards this new show for replacing it. So, there we go. Second of all is something that people have been bringing up a lot regarding this new show ever since it was announced, and that is the art style. So let's address that for a bit before we even start talking about story and character and all that good stuff. The art style is definitely a little simplified, even by my standards, but it does remind me of another fantastic Spider-Man show, Spectacular Spider-Man. Not quite as strongly stylized, but definitely in the same simplified area. And a lot of people have compared this to the recent Netflix Voltron series, and I definitely see it, but once you actually watch the show, I think the anime influences kind of fade. I don't mind this art style, I'm just not yet particularly impressed by it. It definitely makes for some instances of smoother animation, but at the same time, the fight scenes we've seen so far have really lacked a punch, at least to me. If we bring back Spectacular Spider-Man for a second here, the fight choreography in that series was amazing, and while this has been exciting and fun, I just haven't felt the same oomph as I did with Spectacular, but hey, maybe that's my nostalgia speaking. The show starts with the usual high school shenanigans, but things very quickly change actually, as Peter manages to land a spot on a school for super geniuses led by a scientist named Max Modell. Unfortunately, his spot at the school comes at the cost of his friend Harry's spot, as he falls under suspicion of criminal activity. This is because Peter's science teacher, Spencer Smythe, who comic book fans know as one hell of a supervillain, really wants to undermine and sabotage Max Modell in order to push his own son, Alistair, forward as some kind of new super genius for the ages. So basically, Spider-Man is trying to, Peter is trying to earn his spot in this school, get used to being in a school where his intellect can flourish, while at the same time facing an onslaught of robots and supervillains, like they introduce a lot in these first 2 episodes, and just trying to get used to balancing his life. That's basically it. I think I notched the mic, sorry. So yeah, this show makes it pretty clear right from the beginning that things are going to be different, and they actually do introduce a lot of differences, one of which is Harry's hair, and I can't not comment on that because the Osborn haircut is so iconic, and as much as I advocate change, this is one area where I'm purist. One character's hair and you see me freak out, what the hell. But there are plenty of other changes, and some of them are quite interesting, such as indeed Alistair Smythe actually being a classmate of Peter's, and a really arrogant one of that. And I don't recall Spider-Man CES did use Spencer Smythe for like 1 episode, but I'm actually kind of interested in seeing how much they're gonna use him. And there are other changes. Max Modell, I believe, is someone Peter has been working with on fairly equal terms in comic books for a while now. But here he's like the leader of a special school for super geniuses. Liz Allen's race has been changed again. And most interestingly, and something I'm really looking forward to see how it's gonna play into this, Otto Octavius is apparently Peter's age here, if not even younger. That is definitely a different take on the character, and I can't wait to see where they go with this. So yeah, that much is interesting. It's definitely not afraid to do things differently from what we've seen before, despite a lot of complaints all over the internet about once again getting Teenage Peter. And I don't see a problem with that. I like Teenage Peter. I like young Peter. I do want to see him grow. I like adult Peter just as fine as well. But the whole point of the original conception of Peter was for someone who is young or just doesn't know their place in the world to have someone to attach themselves to. And even if you yourself are not a teenager and not in high school, not dealing with all that stuff, I think it's very easy to connect to Peter with money troubles, with trying to figure out where he goes, with trying to find a place where his skill set is the most applicable. Like, I like it. I enjoy seeing old school Spidey back after Ultimate tried to shake things up so much, which again, I'm not against, I just didn't think it worked. As for characters like Peter, his friends, all of that, Peter is so far trying a little too hard to be endearing and fun nerd. Like, almost everything he says is a punchline, whether he's in or out of Spider-Man outfit, and that gets a little bit old here and there, but otherwise he's fine. He's the dorky, energetic guy we all know. I just don't see how this guy, other than being a bit too much sometimes, is someone people are going to necessarily bully or be against. I don't know if they're gonna go with that angle. I didn't really get that vibe from this. Honestly, the main problem so far is the villains. The first two episodes introduce both the Vulture and Scorpion and, of course, the Smythes, even a Spider Slayer robot. And it's all very fun. The fights are very fun. It's fun to see them. But they're just thrown in there with very little in terms of background and actual motivation. They serve mostly as punks and thugs this time around, and I don't know, I'm sure they'll develop them further and explain who they are and where they come from. I just think maybe these two first episodes should have focused on one thing first. On establishing things, on establishing a villain, defeating a villain, let Peter have his start, rather than just facing whoever you can manage to cram in there. It's not bad, it's not even a little bad, it's actually very fun, but I don't know. I would have just liked to see it a little different. Plus, it's like two villains in a row with green power suits. Like, you have to keep things varied, you know? I know a lot of Peter's enemies have a lot of similarities, but come on. Try a little variety. But clearly they're also building up a bit of mystery. The false criminal accusations I talked about before come as a result of Smythe framing Harry, that's true, but he also seems to actually be working on something that looks suspiciously like pumpkin bombs before the Green Goblin has even been established, before Norman Osborn has even been introduced, and it seems like he's trying to reason that he has other reasons to work on such a thing. So there's a little mystery there that it's not really dwelled on. It's not something that we're like, oh, this is very mysterious, let's keep an eye on Harry for the rest of the season. No, it just kind of happens, just kind of there to make those that know what is going on ponder, because it's very different from what we're used to seeing, and those who may be completely new to Spider-Man, the children that are watching, to have a little mystery to latch on to watch the next episode. And I like that. It's definitely interesting. I don't have that much to say about these pilots. They didn't leave a huge impact on me. They didn't give me that, like, oomph of seeing Spider-Man. It's fun to see him in a homemade suit akin to Homecoming in the beginning, and to see him upgrade and to see him do his thing. I don't dislike the show. I'm just a little lukewarm so far, but we've only had 2 episodes, so I'm sure it'll get better. There's not much to say, really. So far, it's just old school Spider-Man with a few twists to modernize it and make things a little different. I want to see what happens at this super genius school. I want to see how Otto Octavius is going to develop when he's not already a well-established super scientist that is like twice Peter's age. And I want to see where this Harry mystery is going. So the show has definitely hooked me. I'm just gonna have to take a little time to get used to the art style, to get used to Peter himself being a little not as fun as I prefer him to be. And just, you know, just getting used to a new Spider-Man, it's always a bit of an adjustment period. I'm gonna keep watching, and I think it's gonna be fun. So, any Spider fan, definitely keep a lookout for it, and try not to freak out over any changes from the comics. Change is welcome. We need something different every time we get a Spider-Man show. But it still feels like they're going for a more old-school Spider-Man feel, and that's definitely something I appreciate. So, wow me, Disney. Wow me, Marvel. Show me what you got. But I want to know what you think. How do you like this new art style? How do you like the changes? Where would you like to see the show go? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe to my channel for many more videos about cartoons, comic books, movies, video games, anything I might think of. I promise not all of it is related to Spider-Man. And if you really like my stuff, you can also follow me on almost all social media or support me on Patreon if you'd like, and there are links to all of that in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, true believers!